Hi everyone, my name is Tania Roa. I'm the Digital Communications Manager at Bio for Climate, or Biodiversity for Livable Climate. Bio for Climate is just what we say for short. And I'm here with my fellow colleague, Hannah Lewis, who is our Compendium editor, but she also is an author now. She wrote a book called Mini Forest Revolution. So today we just want to talk about the book, why it's so important, why we encourage you all to buy it and read it and share it. And so Hannah, why don't you just finish your introduction and yeah, let's get right into it.
Sure. Well, thank you for that introduction. I've started with Bio for Climate about 5.5 years ago, jumped right into the compendium work and have enjoyed every minute of it. I'm from Minneapolis originally, and my background is environmental studies and sustainable agriculture. And so environment has been my focus all along.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, the compendium is, I'm going to mess up the name, but the practical findings, scientific, so long. Do you have it memorized?
Yes, let's see. Scientific and practical findings supporting ecosystem health for the climate, but actually that might not be exactly it.
It's a very long way of saying that what we do is we gather online research, all these articles, journalistic articles or academic scientific articles, and they support a theme. So the theme that brought you to the Miyawaki Method, what theme was that, if you remember?
I think it was all of them. I think what got me thinking about, got me thinking about the Miyawaki Method and excited about it when I first discovered it was just learning about all the ways that healthy ecosystems regulate water cycles, nutrient cycles, carbon cycles, and how they are cooling to the area around them and even on regional and global levels. So I was reading a lot and writing a lot, and that was all really good because it's important for people, me and everybody else, to understand those things. But I was irritated that I was not actually making change on the landscape in any way, shape, or form while sitting at my computer. So when I heard about the Miyawaki Method, it just clicked instantly, and I took it and ran with it. So by writing about it, but also by doing a project myself.
I love that. Yeah, from knowledge to action. That's definitely all what we support over here at Bio for Climate. And so what is the Miyawaki Method? Why is it so important? And yeah, in a summary, in a gist, what is it all about?
Well, the Miyawaki Method is basically a way to grow a mature native forest within 10, 15, 20 years, as opposed to 100 or more years that it would take if you left bare, degraded soil on its own to slowly colonize. And so the Miyawaki Method is based on the idea of ecological succession. And so basically, quickly, what that is when you have bare ground, the first plants to colonize it are small, short-lived plants that make lots of seeds and then die. And they, while they're there, they're improving the soil a tiny bit. And so then another wave of vegetation comes in that's a little bit larger, a little bit longer living. And that continues and continues. You get shrubs and pioneer trees that don't live as long as other kinds of trees like oaks. And eventually the land, which started out bare, hard, dry, and rather inhospitable, has become improved by all of those succession of plant communities. And so you eventually get what you call climax trees, climax species to germinate in the shade of what, the taller vegetation that has grown in there. And so they grow, and once they take over the canopy, they fill it out, and nothing that is shade tolerant, meaning most of the other vegetation that has been there before, can come up in that completely shaded area. So that's why they're called the climax species, because they are shade tolerant, but most other species that have come before them are not. And so they are the ones that create the shade and then kind of hold the space there. So that's a climax forest, and those are the types of forests that live for centuries, millennia. And so Miyawaki thought, okay, let's look at how nature works and let's try to do it ourselves. And so when you have bare degraded land, the first thing to do is do the work of those pioneer species. So you have to decompact the soil, improve the soil, add the kind of compost or rich topsoil that we'd find in a more healthy ecosystem. You put that there, and then you skip right ahead to those climax species, and you plant them in. You plant them densely, and you plant multiple different kinds to make up a multi-layer forest. And so that grows in because those are the trees, the species that are well suited to that place, and because you've created the ideal conditions for them to grow into. And then you get a forest that's stable and healthy and functional, and you don't need to maintain it. It's actually the one thing people like about it is that 3 years after 3 years of low maintenance of the plants, once you put them in, you've created a canopy that's thick enough to shade out weeds and to protect the soil, so that little forest is self-sufficient after about 3 years.
That's so cool. Yeah, there's so much that's going on there. It's working with nature, it's ecosystem restoration, restoring what has been lost, and it's about community as well. We talk about, a revolution, like in the title of your book. This is a revolution that can only happen if we have all these different people working together. So why don't we get into why you chose that title, Mini Forest Revolution, for your book? Because obviously Miyawaki Method isn't necessarily in the title, even though that's what the book is about. So yeah, what goes into that title, and what was your idea behind that?
Well, that title was chosen through a collaboration between the publishers and me, so I wasn't necessarily the author of that title. But I think the idea of a mini forest revolution is there's two parts, and one part is that the idea has really taken off, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, as people become more aware of climate crisis and biodiversity crisis and how they're intertwined, and the importance of habitat and functioning ecosystems for dealing with both of those problems. And so that's one aspect of it, is that it really hit a nerve, I think, with people all over the world to whom it really made sense, very much in the way that it just made perfect sense to me the first time I heard of it. And then the other aspect of that word revolution for me is that it, especially in an urban context, it flips the idea of landscaping on its head, because often when you look at landscaping in a city, it's very pretty, and I think a lot of the idea behind the flowers that are chosen and the beautiful, elegant alignment of trees, there's very much a decorative ornamentation goal. I mean, there are trees and plants and flowers make our cities beautiful. But for the Miyawaki method, the goal is regenerating forest ecosystems and to protect the area around it in various ways. And so And so that's too revolutionary, that when you think about planting trees with the Miyawaki method, you're not thinking about planting one tree in one place where it's not related really to anything else ecologically. It's just there because that's a nice place for shade and it's beautiful there. And with the Miyawaki method, you're actually planting the trees in relation to all the other species that they would be growing with in a natural forest. And so the result is visually different, obviously, because you have a thick stand of multi-layer vegetation. It doesn't have to be big; it can be big or small, but it's a stand of vegetation rather than an individual tree or a line of shrubs or whatever we see fairly often in urban environments.
Yeah, so many great points there. I completely agree. It's the difference between planting a tree and planting an ecosystem. As I don't know if she coined this term, but Maya Dutta, our Miyawaki project manager at Biodiversity for Climate, said about our Miyawaki forests. So I am just going to share my screen so people can kind of visualize what this looks like. There's my wallpaper, a picture I took. And so this is our Miyawaki forest, Biodiversity for Climates in Cambridge. And here, this is what Hannah is talking about. So as you can see, this is all grass. It was just a park. Before it was park, it was actually a landfill here. And as you can see, they set up this circle area. It's small. I mean, when we think of forest, we don't think of a circle, this little pocket, but that's the whole idea of mini forest, that you can really create this ecosystem in just this small space. It doesn't even cover the entire park, not even half of it. It's very tiny. And this picture is actually, not that picture specifically, sorry, but that forest is actually on the cover of your book, right? This right here.
Huh? Yeah, that's it.
And it's a beautiful picture. So here we can see there's people walking by, there's a park in the background. Yeah, using the Miyawaki method to rapidly rewild the world. And so I just wanted to show everyone kind of what we're talking about to really visualize it, because it can seem weird when we think of forest, when we think of mini, it feels like, wait, how does that even work? Especially in an urban space. We really don't have that in many places, but as you said, this revolution is growing across the world. So soon we may be seeing, and we already are seeing, a lot of urban forests. That's amazing. Yeah. So what do you want to say for people who want to get involved, for people who are like, this sounds amazing, other than, of course, get your book and read it and learn all about it? What else can they do in their communities and just to support this whole revolution?
Let's see. Well, it is very much a community project, and so the first aspect of getting going is forming a team, and the team is important for a lot of reasons. One is that you're engaging the community that will be planting it and that will be observing it grow and enjoying it, and also being the guardians of it in the future. You know, to prevent it from being overlooked in the future. If there's a lot of people that know what it is and why it's there and all the benefits of it, that's a good protection for it in the future. And then the other community aspect of it is, well, the other important part of forming a team is that it's a straightforward process, but it's not easy or simple, I would say, because identifying the species mix to plant is a question for somebody knowledgeable in plant ecology, and it takes an understanding of local plant ecology to really hone in on the best species mix. And then there's a lot of, it's also important to prepare the soil well, and so that the plants really get a good start. So that's the importance of a team, is getting all the right knowledge combination together, and also the community buy-in. And then that leads up to the planting day, which is pretty exciting because it lends itself well to community involvement in the sense that it's small, so it's something that can be done in a day or an afternoon, and there's lots of plants to put in the ground, so there's a lot of chances for people to be there and really do a big part of it. And then lastly, what I think is cool about it is that, again, comparing it to regular, tree planting that we're used to, where a tree is fairly big when it's transplanted into its future home in a park. But in this case, the seedlings or the saplings are a foot or two high, and so they're lightweight. It's easy to dig a hole for anybody. If you're 5 years old or 90 years old, you can dig a hole and put a lightweight plant into the ground. So it's welcoming to people in that way because it's very, very participatory. So that's that's a bit about sort of the community context of it, although I'm not sure that was exactly your question.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, I do want to highlight kind of the main points you made about the Miyawaki method. And like you said, we can thank Dr. Akira Miyawaki, the Japanese botanist who created this method, for starting this revolution. And so what I really took from what you were saying and from what I've heard about the Miyawaki method is, like we said, community-led, community action. It's about, like we know in the Cambridge one for Bio for Climate, the one I just showed earlier, that took 100 volunteers the planting day. But that's only the planting day. We have so many other volunteers who are going to meetings with city council members, who are promoting awareness. And to this day, we still have people signing up to, like you said, there is some maintenance involved for a few years. So like watering, things like that. And so, and of course, volunteers means that it's not in community led, but it's something that you do on your spare time. So it can be tough for some people, but hopefully, some people that have time on the weekends, at least just that one planting day, that was just once a year. That's something that you can get involved in. And so community is a big one with the Miyawaki method. And also, like you said, the species that you're planting is very important because it's per that region. So for example, I live in Los Angeles. The species that they use in Cambridge, Massachusetts would not apply to species we would apply here in Los Angeles if we ever built one, because like the climate's different, the soil's different, just so many variables that you said. So something else to keep in mind for people. And like you said, you need to have that team of different skills, people who have that plant knowledge, people who have the knowledge of organizing, how can I get all these people on board? And the last big thing that I took away also is the way that this is done. So it's not about trying to do this huge project that may seem like, oh, it's just not doable because how do you get that much land? The idea is that you can get it anywhere. You don't use that parking lot anymore, build a forest there. You don't use that, apartment complex anymore, that one building anymore, take it down and build a forest there. Like it can be done almost anywhere. And so I think that's where the power in this method really lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and different sizes, different shapes. So you could plant a long row of, like a 4 meter wide row of forest along the boundary of a property or along a road. Yeah, so it lends itself to lots of different applications depending on the need.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And like you said, this is just one way that we are addressing climate change and biodiversity at the same time, because we do know, of course, biodiversity for livable climate. In the name, we say that these are linked and interlinked. They really go hand in hand. And so when we restore ecosystems, we're also helping the local climate, like you said, provide shade. So just so many benefits for all species, humans, animals, plants, fungi. And so it's great. Thank you so much for writing this book, for really promoting the method, and for taking us along for the ride.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the conversation today.
Well, thanks again to everyone else. Of course, pre-order Hannah's book. If you see this after June 2nd, when it's released, then no longer need to pre-order, just order it. And yeah, let's just increase the revolution so we can see Miyawaki forests in even more places.
Awesome.
Thanks again, Hannah.
Thank you.